Welcome to Storybook Nook. Learn English through daily mysterious stories under the moonlight.
Storybook Nook. How not to miss this video if you can't finish it right now? First, give us a like, and then click the save button. A new window will pop up, and you can save it to watch later if you can't watch the entire video right now. This is an effective way to create your own English learning playlist. Let's get started.
Scooby-Doo, The Mystery of the Haunted Manor, Chapter 1, The Enigmatic Invitation. It was a warm, sunny afternoon in Coolsville, and the Mystery Inc. gang had just finished solving their latest case, a so-called haunted amusement park that turned out to be the work of a disgruntled former employee. With another mystery solved, and the culprit behind bars, Fred, Daphne, Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby-Doo were ready to relax and enjoy some well-deserved downtime. The gang had gathered at their favorite hangout spot, the local malt shop, to celebrate their recent success. Scooby and Shaggy were busy devouring a mountain of burgers and fries, while Fred and Daphne shared a milkshake, and Velma sipped on a soda, engrossed in a new mystery novel. Just as they were beginning to unwind, a shadow fell over their table. "Excuse me, are you the Mystery Inc. team?" a voice asked. The gang looked up to see a tall, thin man dressed in a crisp black suit and tie. He had an air of mystery about him, and his piercing blue eyes seemed to hold secrets untold. "That's us," Fred replied, curiosity piqued. "Can we help you with something?" The man smiled faintly and produced a black envelope from his inside pocket. "I have a special invitation for you. It's a matter of great importance and urgency. My employer requests your expertise in solving a series of puzzles and uncovering the secrets of an old manor." He handed the envelope to Fred, who opened it carefully. Inside, they found a beautifully crafted card with ornate handwriting that read, "Dear Mystery Inc., you are cordially invited to Langley Manor to solve an age-old mystery. Your skills and expertise are urgently needed. A substantial reward awaits you upon the successful completion of your task. Please arrive at the manor by sunset tomorrow. Sincerely, an admirer." The gang exchanged puzzled glances. "Langley Manor?" Velma mused aloud. "I've read about that place. It's supposed to be one of the most haunted locations in the country." Daphne's eyes sparkled with excitement. "This sounds like the perfect challenge for us. And a substantial reward doesn't hurt either." Shaggy and Scooby, on the other hand, were less enthusiastic. "Like, haunted?" Shaggy gulped, nervously eyeing his half-eaten burger. "Can't we just stick to, normal mysteries?" "Roo-row," Scooby agreed, his ears drooping. Fred smiled reassuringly at his friends. "Come on, guys. We've faced ghosts, ghouls, and monsters before. What's one more haunted house? Besides, it sounds like a real adventure." Velma nodded. "And if there's one thing we've learned, it's that there's always a logical explanation behind these so-called hauntings. We'll get to the bottom of it." With that, the decision was made. The gang finished their meal and began preparing for their trip to Langley Manor. They stocked up on supplies, packed their bags, and ensured the mystery machine was ready for the journey. The sense of anticipation and curiosity grew as they imagined what lay ahead. The next day, as the sun began its descent toward the horizon, the Mystery Inc. gang set off for Langley Manor. The drive took them through winding country roads and dense forests, the landscape growing more eerie and foreboding as they neared their destination. The setting sun cast long shadows across the road, and a thick fog began to settle, adding to the air of mystery. "Guys, look!" Daphne pointed ahead as the silhouette of a grand old manor came into view. Langley Manor stood tall and imposing, its Gothic architecture and ivy-covered walls giving it an air of timelessness. The iron gates creaked open as they approached, almost as if the manor itself was beckoning them inside. Fred parked the mystery machine in the gravel driveway, and the gang stepped out, taking in the sight before them. The manor loomed large, with turrets and spires reaching toward the sky. The windows were dark and shuttered, and an eerie silence enveloped the grounds. "Spooky," Velma murmured, adjusting her glasses. "Like I'll say," Shaggy added, his voice trembling slightly. "Are we sure about this, guys?" Fred gave him a reassuring pat on the back. "We'll be fine, Shaggy. Let's see if we can find Mr. Wickers." They approached the massive wooden door and knocked. The sound echoed through the manor, and after a few moments, The door creaked open to reveal an elderly man dressed in a formal butler's uniform. His face was lined with age, and his eyes held a hint of sadness. "Good evening," he greeted them with a deep bow. "I am Mr. Wickers, the caretaker of Langley Manor. You must be the Mystery Inc. team. Please, come in." The gang followed Mr. Wickers inside, stepping into a grand foyer adorned with antique furniture, dusty chandeliers, and portraits of stern-looking ancestors. The air was thick with the scent of old books and polished wood. The manor's interior, though impressive, had an undeniable air of neglect and decay. "This way, please," Mr. Wickers instructed, leading them down a dimly lit hallway. "Allow me to explain the situation. Langley Manor has been in my family for generations. Recently, however, strange occurrences have plagued the estate. Ghostly apparitions, unexplained noises, and objects moving on their own. My employer, the current owner of the manor, has hired you to uncover the truth behind these disturbances." Velma listened intently, her analytical mind already at work. "Mr. Wickers, can you tell us more about these occurrences? When did they start? Have you noticed any patterns?" Mr. Wickers sighed. "The hauntings began about 6 months ago, shortly after the passing of the previous owner, Lord Langley. Since then, we've experienced everything from eerie wails in the night to ghostly figures appearing and disappearing at random. Despite our best efforts, we haven't been able to determine the cause." Daphne looked around, intrigued by the history and mystery of the manor. "Have there been any recent renovations or changes to the manor that could have triggered these events?" "None that I am aware of," Mr. Wickers replied. "The manor has remained largely unchanged for decades, but I suspect that there may be secrets hidden within these walls, secrets that someone doesn't want us to uncover." Fred nodded, his determination growing. "Well, Mr. Wickers, you've come to the right team. We'll do everything we can to get to the bottom of this." Mr. Wickers led them to the library, a vast room filled with towering bookshelves and ancient tomes. A large, intricately carved table stood in the center, covered with maps, documents, and old photographs. "This is the heart of our investigation," Mr. Wickers explained. "We've gathered everything we could find about the history of Langley Manor and the Langley family. Perhaps these documents will help you piece together the puzzle." Velma's eyes lit up at the sight of the documents. "This is exactly what we need. We'll start by examining these records and looking for any clues or connections." As the gang settled into the library, Scooby and Shaggy explored the room, their curiosity piqued by the ancient books and peculiar artifacts. Despite their initial apprehension, they couldn't help but be intrigued by the mystery that surrounded them. "Hey, Scoob," Shaggy whispered, holding up a dusty old book. "Check this out. It's a diary from the 1800s. Maybe it has some clues." "Rhea, clues," Scooby agreed, his eyes widening as he looked at the diary. Meanwhile, Fred, Daphne, and Velma pored over the documents on the table. They found old blueprints of the manor, letters from long-deceased family members, and newspaper clippings about the manor's history. As they worked, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that the manor itself was alive with secrets waiting to be uncovered. Hours passed, and the sun had long since set, casting the manor in shadows. The gang was determined, though, driven by their desire to solve the mystery and uncover the truth behind the haunted manor. As the clock struck midnight, they knew that their adventure had only just begun, and that the answers they sought were hidden somewhere within the walls of Langley Manor. And so, with a mixture of excitement and trepidation, the Mystery Inc. gang prepared to delve deeper into the mystery that awaited them, unaware of the challenges and dangers that lay ahead. Chapter 2: The Haunted Manor. As the gang settled into the library of Langley Manor, the atmosphere grew increasingly eerie. The manor seemed to breathe with a life of its own, the old walls whispering secrets from the past. The flickering candlelight cast long, dancing shadows on the walls, and the sound of distant thunder rumbled ominously, as if the weather itself were aware of the impending mystery. "All right, gang," Fred said, spreading out the blueprints of the manor on the large table. "Let's start by getting a lay of the land. This place is huge, and if there are secret passages or hidden rooms, we'll need to know where to look." Daphne nodded, her eyes scanning the blueprints. "We should split up and search different areas. We'll cover more ground that way. But let's make sure we stick to our buddy system. We don't want anyone getting lost or, worse, separated in this creepy old house. Good idea, Velma agreed. Fred and I will take the west wing, Daphne and Scooby can take the east wing, and Shaggy and Scooby can start in the basement. We'll meet back here in an hour to share what we've found. Like the basement, Shaggy gulped, glancing nervously at Scooby. Why do we always get the scariest places? Rory, Scooby echoed, his tail tucking between his legs. Come on, Shaggy, Scooby, Velma reassured them. We'll all be back here soon, and remember, the faster we find clues, the sooner we can solve this mystery and get out of here. Reluctantly, Shaggy and Scooby nodded, grabbing a couple of flashlights before heading towards the basement door. Fred and Velma made their way to the west wing, while Daphne and Scooby started exploring the east wing. As Fred and Velma walked down the long, dimly lit corridor, the floorboards creaked beneath their feet, and the air grew colder. They passed by rooms filled with antique furniture, old portraits, and heavy draperies. Each room seemed to hold a story, a piece of the puzzle they were trying to solve. Velma, look at this, Fred said, pointing to a large portrait of a stern-looking man. This must be Lord Langley, the previous owner. Mr. Wickers mentioned that the hauntings began after his death. Velma adjusted her glasses, examining the portrait closely. You're right, Fred. Lord Langley was known for his eccentricities and his obsession with puzzles and secrets. Maybe there's something hidden in his room that could give us a clue. They continued their search, carefully inspecting each room for anything out of the ordinary. In one room, Velma found a dusty old bookcase with a collection of journals and letters. She pulled one of the journals from the shelf, blowing off the dust. This looks promising, Velma said, opening the journal. It's Lord Langley's personal journal. It might have some information about the manor and the hauntings. Meanwhile, in the east wing, Daphne and Scooby were exploring a series of bedrooms and sitting rooms. Daphne's keen eye for detail helped her spot hidden compartments and secret drawers, while Scooby's keen nose occasionally led them to interesting discoveries. Good boy, Scooby, Daphne praised as Scooby sniffed out a hidden drawer in an old vanity. Inside, they found a collection of old photographs and letters. Daphne carefully examined them, looking for any clues that might help them understand the hauntings. Scooby, look at this, Daphne said, holding up a photograph of a young woman. This must be Lady Langley. She looks so sad in this picture. I wonder if there's a story behind her expression. Lady Langley? Scooby echoed, peering at the photograph. His ears perked up as he heard a faint noise down the hallway. Raphne, did you hear that? Daphne paused, listening intently. It sounds like crying? Let's check it out, Scooby. They followed the sound down the hallway to a small, dimly lit room at the end. The door was slightly ajar, and as they pushed it open, they saw a figure sitting in the corner, sobbing quietly. Daphne approached cautiously, her heart pounding. Excuse me, Daphne said softly. Are you all right? The figure looked up, revealing a young woman with tear-streaked cheeks. She was dressed in old-fashioned clothing, and her eyes held a deep sadness. I'm sorry, the woman said, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't mean to startle you. I'm Lady Langley. Daphne and Scooby exchanged surprised glances. Lady Langley? But you're supposed to be dead? Lady Langley finished, a sad smile playing on her lips. Yes, I know. But I'm not a ghost. I'm very much alive. I've been hiding here for years, ever since my husband's death. Riding? Scooby asked, tilting his head. Why are you hiding? Daphne asked gently. What's been happening here? Lady Langley took a deep breath, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. After my husband's death, strange things started happening in the manor. I believe someone is trying to drive me away, to claim the manor for themselves. I had to hide to protect myself and find out who is behind all this. Daphne and Scooby listened intently as Lady Langley recounted her story. She had been living in the shadows, watching as the hauntings grew more frequent and more terrifying. She had tried to uncover the truth on her own, but had always been one step behind the mysterious culprit. We're here to help, Daphne said firmly. We have a team of experts, and we're going to get to the bottom of this. We'll keep you safe and find out who is behind these hauntings. Thank you, Lady Langley said, her eyes welling up with tears of gratitude. I can't tell you how much this means to me. Meanwhile, in the basement, Shaggy and Scooby were navigating the dark, damp corridors. The air was thick with the smell of mold, and the only light came from their flashlights, which cast eerie shadows on the walls. Like, why do we always get the creepy places, Scoob? Shaggy muttered, trying to keep his nerves in check. Rim not sure, Raggy, Scooby replied, his voice trembling. They stumbled upon an old storage room filled with crates and cobwebs. As they carefully opened the crates, they found old artifacts, broken furniture, and various trinkets from different eras. One crate, however, caught their attention. It was locked with an old, rusty padlock. Hey, Scoob, check this out, Shaggy said, pointing to the locked crate. I bet there's something important in there. Raya, Scooby agreed, his curiosity piqued. They rummaged through the room, looking for something to break the lock. Shaggy found an old crowbar, and with some effort, they managed to pry the padlock open. Inside the crate, they found a collection of old documents and a peculiar-looking device. What's this? Shaggy wondered aloud, holding up the device. It looked like a small, handheld contraption with gears and dials. Looks like a puzzle, Scooby said, examining it closely. Let's take it back to the library, Shaggy suggested. Maybe Velma can figure out what it is. With their find in hand, Shaggy and Scooby made their way back to the library, where they found Fred, Velma, and Daphne waiting. Daphne introduced Lady Langley to the rest of the gang, and they all gathered around the table to share their discoveries. Fred, Velma, meet Lady Langley, Daphne said. She's been hiding in the manor ever since her husband's death. She believes someone is trying to drive her away. Fred and Velma greeted Lady Langley warmly. We're here to help, Fred assured her. We'll get to the bottom of this. Look what we found in the basement, Shaggy said, placing the device on the table. It's some kind of puzzle. Think it has anything to do with the hauntings? Velma examined the device, her eyes lighting up with interest. This looks like an old encryption device. If we can figure out how it works, it might lead us to more clues. As Velma worked on deciphering the device, Fred shared his and Velma's findings from the West Wing. They laid out the journals and letters, revealing more about Lord Langley's eccentricities and his love for puzzles and secrets. We're definitely on the right track, Fred said. The more we uncover, the closer we get to solving this mystery. Lady Langley listened intently, her hope renewed by the gang's determination and expertise. Thank you all so much, she said, her voice filled with emotion. I can't tell you how grateful I am. For the first time in years, I feel like there's hope. As the night wore on, the gang continued to piece together the puzzle of Langley Manor. They knew that the answers they sought were hidden within the walls of the old manor, and with each clue they uncovered, they grew more determined to solve the mystery and bring peace to Lady Langley. The manor itself seemed to pulse with anticipation, as if it were waiting for the moment when its secrets would finally be revealed. And as the clock ticked towards dawn, the Mystery Inc. gang knew that they were on the verge of uncovering the truth behind the haunted manor. Chapter 3: Clues and Confusion. The early morning light began to filter through the heavy draperies of Langley Manor, casting an eerie glow on the intricate patterns of the library's ornate rug. The gang, though tired, was more determined than ever to piece together the mystery of the hauntings. Velma, having deciphered part of the encryption device, gathered everyone around the table to discuss their findings. All right, gang, Velma began, adjusting her glasses. This encryption device is definitely key to our investigation. It seems to be a combination of a cipher and a key. I've managed to decode some of it, and it led me to this phrase, seek the heart of the house. The heart of the house? Daphne repeated, frowning. What could that mean? Fred leaned over the blueprints, tracing his finger along the layout. The heart of the house could refer to the central room, or perhaps a hidden chamber. If Langley Manor is anything like the other old mansions we've investigated, it could be a secret room that Lord Langley used for his more personal matters. Lady Langley, who had been quietly observing the gang's discussion, spoke up. My husband did have a private study that he called his sanctum. It was his most cherished room, where he kept his most valuable secrets. It might be what you're looking for. Rock, let's find it, Scooby said, his tail wagging with newfound enthusiasm. Hold on, Scooby, Fred cautioned. We need to be careful. If someone is trying to scare Lady Langley away, they won't take kindly to us snooping around. We need to stick together and stay alert. The gang divided their tasks once again. Fred, Daphne, and Lady Langley would search the upper floors for any hidden entrances or suspicious areas that could lead to the sanctum. Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby would delve into the documents they had found, looking for any additional clues or maps that might indicate the location of the hidden room. As Fred, Daphne, and Lady Langley ascended the grand staircase, the old wood creaking under their weight, they couldn't help but feel a growing sense of anticipation. The upper floors were filled with even more rooms, each one potentially holding the key to their mystery. Let's start with Lord Langley's bedroom, Lady Langley suggested. He spent a lot of time there, and if there's a hidden entrance to his sanctum, it might be there. They made their way to the master bedroom, an opulent space with a large canopy bed, antique furniture, and thick velvet curtains. Fred and Daphne began examining the walls and floor for any signs of secret panels or hidden doors. Look for anything out of the ordinary, Fred instructed. Loose floorboards, unusual markings, anything that stands out. Daphne ran her hands along the ornate wallpaper, feeling for any inconsistencies. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack, she muttered. There has to be something we're missing. Meanwhile, Lady Langley approached the large, imposing wardrobe against the far wall. My husband always kept this locked, she said, her fingers brushing against the ornate carvings on the door. I never had the key. Fred joined her, inspecting the wardrobe closely. It's worth a try, he said, pulling out a set of lock-picking tools from his pocket. Let's see if we can get this open. As Fred worked on the lock, Daphne continued her search, pausing as she noticed an unusual pattern in the wallpaper near the bed. Fred, Lady Langley, come look at this, she called out. There's something strange about this section of the wall. Fred abandoned the wardrobe and joined Daphne, examining the wallpaper. You're right, he said, his eyes narrowing. It's different from the rest of the room. Let's see what's behind it. Carefully, they peeled back the wallpaper, revealing a small, hidden door. Bingo, Fred said with a grin. This has to be it. Lady Langley gasped, her eyes wide with surprise. I never knew this was here. My husband must have gone to great lengths to keep it hidden. Let's see where it leads, Fred said, pushing the door open. The door creaked on its hinges, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into the darkness. Stay close, Fred instructed, taking the lead with his flashlight. They descended the stairs cautiously, the air growing colder and more musty as they went deeper into the manor. The staircase ended at another door, this one heavy and reinforced. Fred pushed it open, revealing a dimly lit room filled with bookshelves, a large desk, and various artifacts and curiosities. It was Lord Langley's sanctum, a hidden retreat where he had spent countless hours. This is it, Lady Langley whispered, her voice filled with awe. This is where my husband spent so much of his time. Let's look around, Fred said, his flashlight beam sweeping across the room. There has to be something here that will give us more answers. Back in the library, Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby were deep in their research. Velma had spread out the documents and journals they had found, cross-referencing them with the information from the encryption device. Look at this, Shaggy, Velma said, pointing to a passage in one of the journals. Lord Langley wrote about a hidden room where he kept his most valuable possessions and secrets. He called it the heart of the house. Like, do you think Fred and the others have found it? Shaggy asked, munching on a sandwich. I hope so, Velma replied. If they have, it might lead us to the final piece of the puzzle. Suddenly, Scooby's ears perked up. Roo-row, he said, his nose twitching. I hear something. Velma and Shaggy listened, hearing the faint sound of footsteps echoing through the hallway. Someone's coming, Velma whispered. Quick, hide! They ducked behind a large bookshelf, peeking out to see who was approaching. A shadowy figure entered the library, moving stealthily towards the table where the documents were spread out. The figure was dressed in dark clothing, their face obscured by a hood. Who's that? Shaggy whispered, his voice trembling. I don't know, Velma replied, her eyes narrowing. But they look like they're searching for something. The figure rifled through the papers, clearly frustrated at not finding what they were looking for. Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby held their breath. hoping the intruder wouldn't notice them. Finally, the figure gave up and left the library, disappearing down the hallway. Velma waited a few moments before emerging from their hiding spot. "That was close," she said, letting out a sigh of relief. "Whoever that was, they're definitely involved in the hauntings." "Like, what do we do now?" Shaggy asked, still shaken. "We need to find Fred and the others," Velma said decisively. "We have to warn them that we're not alone in this manor." Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby quickly gathered the documents and headed towards the upper floors, their senses on high alert. As they reached the master bedroom, they found the hidden door and descended the narrow staircase, joining Fred, Daphne, and Lady Langley in the sanctum. "Velma, Shaggy, Scooby, you're just in time," Fred said, looking up from a large book he had been examining. "We found the sanctum, and it looks like we might have some answers." "That's great," Velma said, her eyes scanning the room. "But we have a problem. We saw someone sneaking around the library. They're definitely up to no good." Lady Langley gasped. "Someone else is in the manor? Do you think they're the ones behind the hauntings?" "It's possible," Fred said, frowning. "We need to be extra careful. Let's see what we can find here, and then we'll figure out our next move." As they searched the sanctum, they found more journals, letters, and maps, each one providing more pieces to the puzzle. Velma continued to work on deciphering the encryption device, while Fred and Daphne examined the artifacts and curiosities. Shaggy and Scooby, meanwhile, explored the room, their curiosity piqued by the strange items on display. They found an old chest filled with mysterious objects, including a strange glowing crystal. "Like, what do you think this is, Scoob?" Shaggy asked, holding up the crystal. "Roa," Scooby replied, sniffing it cautiously. "But it looks important." As they continued their search, Fred called everyone over to the large desk. "I think I found something," he said, pointing to a hidden compartment in the desk. Inside, they found a set of blueprints and a detailed map of the manor, including the hidden rooms and passages. "These blueprints show everything," Fred said, his eyes wide with excitement. "We can use this to navigate the manor and find out who is behind the hauntings." "Good work, Fred," Velma said, studying the map. "This will definitely give us an advantage. Now we just need to figure out our next move." Lady Langley, who had been quietly observing the gang's efforts, spoke up. "Thank you all so much for your help. I don't know what I would have done without you. Please, be careful. Whoever is behind this is dangerous." "We will," Fred assured her. "We'll stick together and use the blueprints to find out who's responsible. We're getting closer to the truth, and we won't stop until we solve this mystery." With the blueprints in hand, the gang felt more confident than ever. They knew that the answers they sought were within their reach, and they were determined to bring an end to the hauntings of Langley Manor. As they prepared to continue their investigation, the manor seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the moment when its secrets would finally be revealed. Chapter 4: Unmasking the Mystery. Armed with the blueprints and a renewed sense of purpose, the gang gathered in the sanctum to plan their next steps. The hidden rooms and secret passages on the map revealed the complex nature of Langley Manor, and it became clear that their unseen adversary had been utilizing these hidden routes to move undetected. Fred spread the blueprints on the large desk, his finger tracing the intricate lines and markings. "All right, gang, according to these blueprints, there are several hidden passages that connect various parts of the manor. We need to split up and cover as much ground as possible." "Let's use the buddy system," Daphne suggested. "Fred and I can take the east wing, Velma can take the west wing with Lady Langley, and Shaggy and Scooby can explore the basement and any lower-level passages." "Like, why do we always get the creepy basements?" Shaggy complained. But he knew there was no point in arguing. "Come on, Scoob, let's get this over with." Rees row," Scooby said, his tail drooping slightly but his resolve unwavering. With their assignments clear, the gang set off in their respective directions, flashlights in hand and nerves steeled for whatever lay ahead. Fred and Daphne's search. Fred and Daphne made their way to the east wing, their eyes scanning for any signs of hidden doors or suspicious activity. The corridors were long and filled with portraits of long-deceased family members, their eyes seeming to follow them as they walked by. "This place gives me the creeps," Daphne said, shivering. I keep feeling like we're being watched. Fred nodded. Stay close, Daphne. These passages are tricky and we don't want to get separated. As they reached the end of the hallway, Fred noticed a faint outline of a door in the wood paneling. I think we found something, he said, pressing against the wall. With a soft click, the panel slid open, revealing a narrow staircase leading upwards. Let's check it out, Daphne said, her curiosity piqued. They ascended the stairs cautiously, emerging in a small attic space filled with old furniture and forgotten items. In the center of the room was a large trunk, its lock broken and the lid slightly ajar. Fred opened the trunk, revealing a collection of old letters and documents. These might be useful, he said, sifting through the papers. It looks like Lord Langley was involved in some sort of secret society. These letters mention meetings and coded messages. Daphne frowned. A secret society? That could explain the encryption device and the hidden rooms. We need to take these back to Velma. Agreed, Fred said, gathering the papers. Let's head back and regroup with the others. Velma and Lady Langley's discovery. Meanwhile, Velma and Lady Langley were exploring the West Wing, their eyes sharp for any clues. The West Wing was more dilapidated than the rest of the manor, with cobwebs hanging from the ceiling and dust covering every surface. This part of the manor hasn't been used in years, Lady Langley said, her voice tinged with sadness. My husband closed it off after a series of accidents. He believed it was cursed. Cursed or not, there are definitely secrets here, Velma said, examining a section of the wall that looked out of place. Help me with this panel. Together, they pushed the panel, revealing a hidden alcove filled with old books and a dusty journal. Velma opened the journal, her eyes widening as she read the contents. This is Lord Langley's personal journal, she said, flipping through the pages. It talks about his experiments with the supernatural and his attempts to communicate with spirits. He was trying to unlock the secrets of the afterlife. Lady Langley gasped. I had no idea. He never told me about any of this. There's more, Velma said, pointing to a passage. He mentions a rival who was trying to steal his research. Someone named M. We need to find out who that is. Could it be someone from the secret society Fred and Daphne mentioned? Lady Langley wondered. Possibly, Velma said. Let's take this journal and regroup with the others. We might be able to cross-reference the names and find a connection. Shaggy and Scooby's basement adventure. In the basement, Shaggy and Scooby were having a hard time navigating the dark, damp corridors. The air was thick with the smell of mold, and every creak and groan of the old pipes sent shivers down their spines. I don't know how much more of this I can take, Shaggy said, his voice trembling. This place is giving me the heebie-jeebies. Reebies, Scooby agreed, his nose twitching as he sniffed the air. They turned a corner and stumbled upon a small, dimly lit room filled with strange equipment and charts. In the center of the room was a large table with a map of the manor, marked with various symbols and notes. Check this out, Scoob, Shaggy said, pointing to the map. It looks like someone has been tracking our movements. Roo-row, Scooby said, his ears drooping. Rat, does it mean? It means we're not alone, Shaggy said, his eyes wide. We need to get out of here and find the others. As they turned to leave, they heard a noise behind them. A shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, blocking their exit. Going somewhere? The figure said, their voice low and menacing. Shaggy and Scooby screamed and bolted past the figure, their feet moving faster than ever. They ran through the corridors, their hearts pounding, until they finally burst into the sanctum, where the rest of the gang was waiting. We found a creepy room in the basement, Shaggy panted, and someone was down there. Someone's definitely trying to scare us away, Fred said, frowning. But we won't let them. Did you find anything useful? We found a map, Shaggy said, handing it to Fred. It shows all the secret passages and rooms. Fred studied the map, his expression thoughtful. This confirms what we suspected. Someone has been using these passages to move around the manor undetected. But who? Let's cross-reference the names we found, Velma suggested, opening Lord Langley's journal. We might be able to identify M. As they compared the names from the journal with the letters Fred and Daphne found, a pattern began to emerge. One name stood out, Montgomery Finch, a former associate of Lord Langley who had been discredited and ostracized from the secret society. Montgomery Finch, Velma said, tapping the name. He must be M. He had a motive to scare Lady Langley away and claim the manor for himself. But how do we prove it? Daphne asked. We need solid evidence. Fred nodded. We need to catch him in the act. Let's set a trap. Setting the trap. The gang quickly devised a plan to lure Montgomery Finch into revealing himself. They set up hidden cameras in strategic locations around the manor and prepared to confront him when he showed up. As night fell, they took their positions, waiting in tense silence. Hours passed, and just when they thought Finch might not show, they heard the faint sound of footsteps. He's here, Fred whispered. Get ready. They watched as Finch, dressed in dark clothing, made his way through the hidden passages, heading towards the sanctum. When he entered the room, Fred and the gang sprang their trap. Hold it right there, Finch, Fred shouted, stepping out of the shadows. Finch froze, his eyes wide with shock. What is this? He demanded. How did you? We know everything, Velma said, stepping forward. Your rivalry with Lord Langley, your attempts to steal his research, and your plan to scare Lady Langley away. You can't prove anything, Finch sneered. This manor is mine by right. Wrong, Fred said, holding up the letters and journal. We have all the evidence we need to expose you. The police are on their way. Finch's expression turned to one of desperation. You don't understand. Lord Langley was on the verge of a breakthrough. His research could change everything. That doesn't justify what you've done, Daphne said firmly. You endangered lives and tried to steal what didn't belong to you. As the police arrived and took Finch into custody, Lady Langley approached the gang, her eyes filled with gratitude. I can't thank you enough for everything you've done. You've saved my home and uncovered the truth about my husband's work. We're just glad we could help, Fred said with a smile. And remember, if you ever need us again, Mystery Inc. is always ready for the next adventure. As the gang left Langley Manor, they felt a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction. They had faced danger, solved the mystery, and brought justice to those who sought to do harm. And as they drove off into the night, they knew that their next adventure was just around the corner, waiting to be unraveled. Chapter 5: Lessons and Reflection. As the gang drove away from Langley Manor, a profound sense of accomplishment settled over them. The case had been challenging, fraught with danger, and full of twists and turns, but in the end, they had triumphed. The atmosphere in the Mystery Machine was one of reflective silence, each member of Mystery Inc. lost in their thoughts. Velma broke the silence first, adjusting her glasses as she spoke. It's amazing how every case we solve teaches us something new. This one was no exception. We uncovered a hidden world of secret societies and forbidden research. Daphne nodded, her expression thoughtful. And we also learned the importance of persistence. Even when things seemed impossible, we kept pushing forward and found the truth. Fred glanced in the rearview mirror, catching Velma's eye. I think we also saw how dangerous it can be when people let their ambitions override their morals. Montgomery Finch was willing to go to great lengths to achieve his goals, without any regard for the harm he caused. Shaggy, who had been munching on a sandwich, paused to chime in. We learned that sometimes the scariest places aren't so scary when you have friends by your side. Right, Scoob? Yeah, right, Scooby agreed, his tail wagging enthusiastically. Rians make everything better. They all laughed, the tension from the case dissipating with their shared camaraderie. The events at Langley Manor had been intense, but the gang's bond had only grown stronger. Reflecting on friendship later that evening, the gang gathered around a campfire at their favorite rest stop, a cozy clearing just off the highway. The flickering flames cast a warm glow, and the stars twinkled above them in the clear night sky. It was the perfect setting for reflection and relaxation. Fred poked at the fire with a stick, sending sparks dancing into the air. You know, every time we face danger, it reminds me of how important it is to stick together. We've faced some pretty wild situations, but we've always come out on top because we trust each other. That's true, Daphne said, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. We each bring something unique to the team. Fred, your leadership keeps us focused. Velma, your intellect helps us solve the toughest puzzles. Shaggy and Scooby, your bravery. Bravery, Shaggy interrupted with a chuckle. Like, I'm not sure running away screaming counts as bravery. Raya, Scooby added, grinning sheepishly. But it does, Velma said firmly. You both have a different kind of bravery. You face your fears head-on, even when you're scared. That's something to be proud of. Shaggy and Scooby exchanged surprised glances, then smiled. Thanks, Velma. Shaggy said, that means a lot. Lessons from the past. As the night wore on, their conversation turned to the lessons they had learned from their time-traveling adventure. Velma, always the scholar, began to philosophize about the implications of their discoveries. Lord Langley's work on the supernatural was groundbreaking, she mused. But it also showed us the dangers of meddling with forces we don't fully understand. His obsession with the afterlife led to his downfall and created a legacy of fear and suspicion. Fred nodded. And Finch's actions reminded us that knowledge can be a double-edged sword. It can lead to incredible advancements, but if used selfishly, it can cause great harm. Daphne leaned forward, her eyes reflecting the firelight. We also learned about the importance of preserving history. Langley Manor was full of secrets that needed to be uncovered, not just for the sake of solving the mystery, but to honor the past and learn from it. Rhea, learn from the rust, Scooby echoed, nodding sagely. Shaggy, always the pragmatist, added, and we learned that, like keeping a few snacks handy can get you through even the scariest situations. Everyone laughed, the mood lightening once again. Despite the seriousness of their reflections, there was always room for humor and a reminder of the simple joys in life. Future adventures. With the case behind them, the gang began to look forward to future adventures. The world was full of mysteries, and they were ready to face whatever came next. As they sat by the campfire, each member of Mystery Inc. felt a sense of excitement about the future. What's our next move? Daphne asked, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. There are so many places we haven't explored yet. Fred smiled. I was thinking we could head to that abandoned amusement park we heard about. Rumor has it there's a ghost haunting the old roller coaster. Sounds like a plan, Velma said, nodding. But first, we should make sure we have all our equipment ready. We can't go unprepared. Rhea, and rookies, Scooby suggested, licking his lips. Like, you read my mind, Scoob, Shaggy said, pulling out another sandwich from the cooler. Nothing beats a good snack to get you ready for some ghost hunting. As they continued to discuss their plans, the fire crackled and popped, casting long shadows that danced around the clearing. Each member of Mystery Inc. felt a renewed sense of purpose and unity. They were a team, a family, and nothing could stand in their way. The importance of teamwork. Their experience at Langley Manor had reinforced the importance of teamwork and mutual support. Every clue they uncovered, every danger they faced, had been navigated together. It was a testament to their trust in each other and their shared commitment to solving mysteries. Fred, as always, emphasized the importance of planning and strategy. We've seen time and time again that a well-thought-out plan can make all the difference, but it's our ability to adapt and support each other that really sets us apart. Daphne agreed, adding, and it's not just about solving the mystery. It's about understanding the people involved, the history, and the context. Every case is a learning experience. Velma, ever the voice of reason, said, and we should never underestimate the power of friendship. It's what keeps us grounded and gives us the strength to face whatever comes our way. Shaggy and Scooby, with their usual mix of humor and heart, summed it up perfectly. Like, as long as we stick together, nothing can stop us, Shaggy said, patting Scooby on the back. Rhea are unstoppable, Scooby declared, his tail wagging with enthusiasm. Final reflections. As the night grew darker and the fire began to die down, the gang's conversation slowed to a comfortable silence. They were content, knowing they had done their best and learned valuable lessons along the way. Lady Langley's gratitude and the sense of justice they had restored at Langley Manor were rewarding in ways that went beyond mere mystery solving. They had made a difference, and that was what mattered most. Fred looked around at his friends, feeling a deep sense of pride. We've come a long way since our first mystery. Each case makes us stronger, and I know we'll continue to face whatever challenges come our way. Velma, always insightful, added, and we'll keep learning and growing. Every mystery is a chance to expand our knowledge and deepen our understanding of the world. Daphne, with her characteristic optimism, said, "And we'll always have each other. That's the real secret to our success." Shaggy and Scooby, as always, brought it home with a simple truth. Like, "We couldn't ask for better friends," Shaggy said, smiling at the group. "We are the best," Scooby agreed, giving a big, slobbery lick to Shaggy's cheek. As they finally crawled into their sleeping bags and drifted off to sleep, the gang felt a sense of peace and satisfaction. They had faced the unknown and come out stronger, ready for whatever lay ahead. And as the stars shone brightly above, they knew that as long as they had each other, there was no mystery too great for Mystery Inc. to solve.
Thank you for watching the entire video. Please support us by clicking the subscribe button and stay tuned for our upcoming videos.